typically in the process, the insurance carrier is going to ask for some type of mitigation. Jeff, what is mitigation? What should a client be looking for during that process to make sure that they don't, let's say, get rid of any damage before a structural adjuster or even a personal property adjuster comes out? What's your experience on what insurance companies ask for? Alex, I'll give you an option for that as well after Jeff gives his input.
So typically when like say one of the big things we experience here in the Houston area is flooding. Typically the insurance is going to pay to repair, replace up to 2 feet above the highest level of water infiltration. Mm-hmm. So if you have 6 inches of water in your home, you need to make certain that at least 30 inches is cut out and cleaned out so the wall can start airing out and drying out. That's going to help mitigate your damages as fast as possible. 2, the big one when dealing with flood or water infiltration in the state of Texas, mold is a separate item and a separate rider on a homeowner's insurance policy. You never want to say the words mold on an insurance claim because that's going to throw red flags up on an adjuster's schedule. It's quite okay to say that you're doing this work in an attempt to mitigate microbial growth, because then that's a level of, okay, I'm taking personal responsibility. I'm trying to protect my home, trying to minimize the damage as much as possible, and try to minimize the damage to my health as much as possible. But we as people, we are not licensed mold inspectors. And so when you start talking about mold, that opens up a whole new can of worms and really throws insurance into a quizzy.
Yeah, I have some personal experiences with that. Alex, do you have anything to add on the mitigation aspects that insurance carriers are going to ask for?
Yeah, usually from my experience, what they always say is just take photos. Take photos of any damage before you do anything in the house. Just be extensive with your photos. Don't take like one photo from one little angle, and then just rip up your carpet all over the place. Take as many photos as your phone can fit. Just make sure that from every angle before you do anything, move anything, fix anything. But definitely make sure that you're working on it, because once the adjuster gets out there, he's going to make sure that you actually did something to stop that damage from getting worse, which can affect your claim.
Yeah, I'll just give some brief input on a specific example. So, we'll talk about this here in a second. But a couple of years ago, we had almost 80% of the entire Texas have some type of claim or experience with the Texas freeze. A lot of the clients that called in would have essentially a structural adjuster come out first, and then a personal property adjuster come out almost several weeks afterwards. And so, the carriers at that time were asking customers to try to mitigate it, and a lot of them were pipe burst water damage claims. So a lot of them were asking at that time to try to, get rid of all the personal property and try to just limit as much, additional damage as possible. So what happens, the customers would actually throw out a lot of the personal property and not take any photos, not have an inventory. And the personal property adjuster would come in like 2 weeks later and say, hey, okay, where's all your stuff? And so we had, it wasn't a tremendous amount of customers, but it was a good handful of customers, just the size of the claim, that didn't have an answer for that. And so my recommendation is, number one, have an inventory of all your personal belongings. Number two, the mitigation aspects, go with what the adjusters and carriers are asking for, but also have that contractor ready to make sure that, they're partnering with you during that process, so that, you have somebody outside of just yourself that's, witnessing these events. And then just like Alex said, take as many photos as you possibly can, different angles. Once you start throwing away things, once you start, making changes to the scene of the crime, so to speak, then you don't really have a whole lot of backing outside of photos and video. Jeff, would you say that that's a kind of a fair process to run through?
Oh, absolutely. You want to make certain to have everything documented, photographed, itemized. If you've got, if you've got things that you can, pricing on it, note that as well. The more information you can provide to your insurance company, the quicker your claim is going to be settled, the more money you're going to get out of your claim.